Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this evening's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting, it has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by the board members. I would like to introduce the people participating in this meeting this evening. Recording Secretary Siobhan Fraser, Superintendent Dr. Michelle Reed, board members Amy Cass, David Kogan, Sandy Hayes, and Jacqueline McGurty. I am Bob Swain, and I currently serve as president of the board. The agenda for this meeting is available online at boarddocs.com. So we'll start with the approval of the agenda. Would the board like to make any changes to the agenda as it has been published? Okay, hearing none.
I'll make it a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you. It's been approved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. I call for the vote. All right, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. We continued our class visits since our last board meeting. Had an opportunity to visit with our North Shore Networks students, staff, and families before my classroom visits, and also Canyon Creek. I had a chance to be in all our Canyon Creek Coyote classrooms and have a chance to meet with our Coyote families prior to school starting on that day. Want to share that I continue my mid-year strategic action plan meetings with all principals in the district and their regional assistant superintendents, as well as our executive director of racial and educational justice. And we're continuing to look at student data at each of these meetings, and I continue to copy and forward those to you as a board. There's a lot of really good work going on in our schools at this time. Had an opportunity to host a coffee with the superintendent meeting, as well as an evening hosted by Mr. Paul Hess and several of our Republican colleagues in this region. And also want to mention that we had a state auditor, the opening meeting for our audit that's upcoming, our annual audit. That's always an exciting time to have an opportunity to visit with our state auditors and take a look at the work, the really excellent work that's happening in our budget and finance offices and the like. So, and then we've been doing a lot of filming in preparation to get ready for our State of the Schools event this week, as well as just checking out schools and planning forward for our students coming back. I had a chance to tour Ruby Bridges Elementary, and as we take a look at visit with office staff and other staff as we prepare our buildings, it's an exciting time. And then lastly, this weekend, we had an opportunity to be part of supporting a community vaccination clinic, and that included our staff as well as other community members. So many of us were on site to support that work all day yesterday. And really a big shout out and grateful thanks to the Everett Clinic, our partners in that work. And we really appreciate their continued support and partnership. So that's my report for now, President Swain. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Anyone have any questions? All right. Okay, now we'll move on to our association and public comment section of this evening's meeting. To begin, the North Shore School District Board of Directors set aside a period of up to 60 minutes to receive updates and comments from association leaders and citizens from our community. The board expects all parties addressing the board to present their comments in a way that is civil and respectful. Please speak directly to the board and address matters related to district operations, policies, procedures, and agenda items under consideration by the board. Comments should not make reference to any employee or representative of the district by name or by identifiable reference. There is a complaint process available through the Office of the Superintendent if interested. Washington state law requires that only items on a previously published agenda be discussed at a board meeting. Any new topics brought up during public comment will either receive a latter response from a district employee or a board member, or be discussed at a future board meeting. So we'll begin with our public. We don't have any association comments or participation this evening. We do have many public comments. There are roughly 42, I would say, individual comments that we will read. So to the audience, just be patient with us. We had a lot to pull together here before the deadline, and we've pulled them together in a document, and we're all gonna, us board members are gonna take our turns reading through 3 or 4 at a time, and hopefully we'll be able to get through them by our 60-minute period, and then we'll kind of reevaluate where we're at once we get there. So I will go ahead and start here. Our first comment up is from Carie L Conlon. Carie says, "My name is Carie and I am the mom to a 3rd grader and soon to be kindergartner at Eastridge Elementary. I have been fortunate enough to dedicate my day to my 3rd grader and help him whenever he needs it with his schoolwork. I realize I am few and far between. I have given up my job the past year so I can be dedicated to my child so he does not fall behind. From what I experience in my son's class, I am one of the few parents that are accessible to their kids during the day. Teachers cannot help these kids online. Half the morning Zoom is the teacher trying to get the lessons pulled up, kids not knowing where to go or find the document they are working in. My daughter has been fortunate to be in preschool 4 days a week, beginning in September with 0 COVID illness or closures for the past 6+ months. We are facing a crisis related to continued remote learning when districts all over the country have returned to full in-person learning. The 2-week closure has turned into a 365-day plus closure for North Shore, and it's time to end it. Give our children, all of our children, a choice to be back where they belong in the classroom. Please follow the science and the lead of school districts all over the United States and give our children the choice to be back in school where they belong. School is essential. Teachers are essential. In-person learning is essential. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now." Signed, Carie Conlon. Our next public comment is from Erin Mcpherson. "As the parent of a 6th and 9th grader, I want to express how disappointed our family is with the current lack of leadership and ability to meet the moment from this board and superintendent. Your role is to advocate for education of all students in the district. This means providing an in-person option for all NSD students this spring. Abandoning half the district students to languish remotely in a learning model that does not work for them is unacceptable and cruel. Every day there are reports about schools which have safely reopened and my kids ask if we can move away like their friends did so they can go to school too. My boys are disengaged from learning and activities. They're at the breaking point. 1 year ago, when remote learning was scary and complicated, Superintendent Reed advised not to let perfection be the enemy of progress. Why are you giving up now? All NSD students deserve the same level of leadership, commitment, and advocacy towards getting back into the classroom. It is within your power as the board and superintendent to prioritize getting all students in all grades back to class this spring for hybrid learning and advocating for a full return to school in the fall of 2021. Erin Mcpherson. The next one is from James McPherson. 1 year ago, NSD was the first in the nation to close, and we appreciate putting the health and safety of the students and staff first in an effort to slow the spread of COVID. It was difficult, but was the right thing for our students and community at the time. 1 year later, I thought that with the same leadership, we would be one of the first school districts back in the classroom. Cases are dropping in our area. We know more about the virus. Vaccines are being distributed to teachers, and there is copious guidance from local, state, and federal agencies for schools to assist them with reopening all their doors. not just the ones that say elementary on them. As a parent of a 6th grader and 9th grader, I once trusted that this board and superintendent would act in the best interests of all of our students. Instead, you have abandoned half of the district students by refusing to offer any option for formal in-person learning this spring, claiming it is too complicated. This is an unacceptable excuse, illustrating your failure to have a comprehensive plan to return to the classroom option for all grades. This has put a mental and physical toll on so many students, including our sons. It is within your power as the board and superintendent to prioritize getting all students in all grades back to classrooms this spring for hybrid learning and advocating for a full return to school in the fall of 2021. If other districts can develop a safe plan, so can we. No more excuses. Signed, James McPherson. All right, I'll do one more and then I'll let Director McGurty take over. This one is from Lisaammons. Topic: remote learning is failing my student. My name is Lisa, and I am the mom of a 6th grader that should be attending Timbercrest Middle School. My family and my child are suffering. I have watched my daughter from a happy, well-adjusted student who loves school to a withdrawn, depressed, and dejected child. Remote learning is not working for her. The further behind she falls, the more depressed and isolated she becomes. She is not understanding or comprehending the way materials are being presented online. Her mood continues to worsen as she watches friends and families around us go back to school. I have no words when she questions why she cannot go to school and enjoy the social and educational part of middle school she has imagined, while friends in neighboring districts are already back in class or will be soon. How is this equitable? I have no answers when she asks me how and why North Shore promotes equity in education for all, but they are not providing her with an equitable education compared to others across the state and the nation. If the North Shore School District does not offer in-person learning for all students by the fall of 2021, my middle schooler will be unenrolled from the North Shore School District and will most likely not return. We purchased our home specifically to have our daughter enrolled in NSD. I am regretting my choice, and I'm disappointed that North Shore is watching other districts follow the science and reopen their schools while their own students suffer and fall behind at home. Please follow the science and the lead of school districts all over the United States and give families the choice to be back in school where they belong. School is essential. Teachers are essential. In-person learning is essential. We are facing a crisis related to continued remote learning when districts all over the country have returned to full in-person learning. I beg you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now. Signed, Lisaammons. I hope I pronounced your name right, Lisa. All right, Director McGurty, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, of course. Excuse me. The next letter is from Scottammons, and I apologize if I'm repeating some things here. His topic is remote learning is failing my student. My name is Scott, and I am the father of a 6th grader that should be attending Timbercrest Middle School. She has never set foot inside the building she is to call her own. If this isn't concerning to you, it should be. My family and my child are suffering. I have watched my child from a happy, well-adjusted student who loved school to a withdrawn and depressed child. Remote learning is not working for her. The further behind she falls, the more depressed and isolated she becomes. She is not understanding or comprehending the way materials are being presented online. Her mood continues to worsen as she watches friends and families around us go back to school. There are no good answers when she questions why she cannot go to school and enjoy the social and educational part of middle school she has imagined and worked so hard for, while friends in neighboring districts are already back in class or will be soon. How is this possible, and how is this equitable? I have no answers when she asks why her mother and I have been able to work in person this entire time, but teachers and students cannot. Is it really more important to have your car serviced or your bathroom remodeled than to educate a child? How can we go to the mall but not go to school? How can we dine out in a restaurant with strangers but we can't eat in a cafeteria with our friends? How is it safe to go to the gym, gymnastics class, church, etc., but school that just can't be figured out? North Shore School District does not offer in-person learning for all students by the fall of 2021, my middle schooler will be unenrolled from the North Shore School District and will most likely not return. We purchased our home specifically to have our daughter enrolled in NSD. I am regretting my choice and am disappointed that North Shore is watching other districts follow the science and reopen their schools while their own students suffer and fall behind at home. Please follow school districts all over the United States and give families the choice to be back in school where they belong. School is essential. In-person learning is essential. We are facing a crisis related to continued remote learning when districts all over the country have returned to full in-person learning. I beg of you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now. Scottammons. Okay, next up from Megan Madsen. Dear North Shore School District Board and Dr. Reed, while I appreciate the fact that we have a going back to school plan, it falls short. I have 4 kids in the North Shore School District, and according to your plan, only 1, but possibly 2 of my kids get to go back. While my 4th grader will benefit from going to some kind of schooling in 6 weeks, my 12th grader is a maybe, and my 10th and 7th graders will remain at home. This inequity is something I cannot wrap my mind around. Mental health has been a leading discussion, yet again, it is being ignored. How do you suggest I explain to my kids why their siblings can go be with teachers, peers, and in a building, but they can't? In addition to the inequity, only allowing elementary kids in the classroom 1 day a week is ridiculous. There is no reason they can't go 2 days a week right now. Saying that secondary students can't go to individual classes simply isn't true. Snohomish School District is going to do it. Why can't we? We should be able to allow our amazing teachers to teach and instruct the kids on how things might look different now. You keep saying that kids are resilient and adaptable beings. Give them the opportunity. Your timeline is stretched too long. The fact that we have been in this for a year and now you need another 3 weeks to get things ready is ridiculous. It is mentioned that there has been work going into getting our kids back, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Has anything been done to the inside of the schools other than changing a filter? I know in California, schools removed drinking fountains, got plexiglass partitions for each student desk, had markers on the ground all by September, so as soon as numbers and vaccinations were ready, it took them no time to hit go. Please revisit the plan and leave no child behind. Our kids deserve better. Okay, next is a letter from Gemma Remillard. I appreciate the board and Dr. Reed for having made themselves more available through the live events held over the past weeks. However, more questions were asked than were answered. Since those meetings, there has been the big news that teachers are now eligible for vaccinations. I understand the process of getting those appointments, and in the case of the 2-shot version, the vaccinating itself takes time, but this is huge as it has been a frustrating non-negotiable for the teachers' unions and yourselves in getting our children back in school. My question then is, after a reasonable amount of time has passed where those teachers who want to be vaccinated can be expected to have been vaccinated, are you going to start putting the focus back on the children and demand that teachers return to the classroom? More specifically, if you set an open date and the union persuades their teachers to delay that opening or refuse to return, you will start to hold them accountable and in breach of their contract, or will you give the union the ability to continue to keep our children out of the classroom by changing your own goalposts to align with their demands? Again, in parentheses. If teachers are vaccinated and no longer at risk of serious illness, and children were already not at risk of serious illness, then there really are no further excuses for keeping them out of the classroom, including, in my opinion, the 6-foot rule, which I might point out is not a rule, but a guideline that was issued prior to teachers being vaccinated, which changes everything. I'd like to close my comment by again pointing out that I have 3 elementary schools within walking distance of my home. 2 of them are open and have been for months. 1 of them remains shuttered. We all know which of those 3 schools is the public option. Okay. Let's see. The next letter is from Daryl Heinzerling. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It is titled Suggestions for Bond Planning Task Force. Slide 9 of the Capital Bond Planning document from the 25 January retreat is titled, quote, Building History and Anticipated 30-Year Lifespan, unquote. By this 30-year measure, 16 of the 21 elementary schools are beyond their lifespan and apparently in need of major modernization or replacement. I suggest giving little weight to the age of each school and rather assess each school separately as to their current problems and future needs. This should make better use of available funds. We see in the North Shore School District Demographic Trends and Enrollment Projections, unquote, February 2021, pages 51 and 52, that 5 of the 21 elementary schools expect declining enrollment, while most expect small to moderate growth in the next 5 years. Shelton View, West Hill, and Eastridge are the only 3 elementaries not capable of accommodating expected enrollment by 2030. In parentheses, need extra portables, in parentheses. But Eastridge has good functional performance and condition assessments, while Shelton and West Hill have the lowest functional performance, so these 2 should receive priority funding. Moorlands shares the lowest facility condition score in 3.6 to 4.5, with 6 other schools and the lowest functional performance score of 4.6 to 5.0 with 8 other schools, but is alone among these in expecting declining enrollment. So even though it is nearly the oldest and apparently not doing well, it should get lower priority in funding compared to schools not declining in enrollment. That's that. Okay, shall we go next?
Thank you, Director McGurty. This next email is from Janice Carey. In a recent Zoom meeting, the board and superintendent indicated there would be no in-class instruction for middle and high school students for the current school year. The excuse given was that the hybrid model was too complicated. Yet when asked what the plan for September 2021 was, parents were told it would be a hybrid model. If the board and superintendent can't figure out how to make it work for this year, when they've had at least 6 months to work out a plan, why should parents have any confidence that it should be figured out by September? Janice Carey. The next email is from Chris Holcomb. I have a 5th grader, 3rd grader, and a kindergartner. Remote learning is failing my children. I do not understand why almost every district in Washington is back to school and North Shore continues to undervalue the education of our children. We are fortunate enough to put all of our children in tutoring at a massive expense to us. It is appalling the core fundamentals that they haven't learned yet. I find it extremely hypocritical that the district that prides itself on equitable learning continues to implement learn at home policies that strain and handicap minority families more than Caucasian by and large. This is ridiculous. Please open the schools back up. Our children need in-person interaction. They need in-person instruction. It is time to come back. I am happy to talk with anyone at any time to address my concerns. Sincerely, Chris Holcomb. The next email is from Mary Kay Oshman. To whom it may concern, I have 2 children that go to Arrowhead Elementary. My oldest is in 3rd grade and she is becoming extremely depressed. My youngest is in kindergarten and is behind. My husband and I both work outside of the home and have been paying $2,000 a month for childcare. The reopening plan simply is not good enough. We need our children back in person full-time, not only for educational purposes, but also for the sake of their mental health. North Shore students are going to be left behind if we don't open up our schools now. There is no reason that other districts, bars and shopping malls can be open, but we can't open our school. Please figure out a resolution immediately. Thank you, Mary Kay Oshman. Oshman, excuse me. The next email is from Roberta Lang. To whom it may concern, I have 2 children that go to East Ridge Elementary. My oldest is in 4th grade and she is becoming extremely depressed. My youngest is in kindergarten and is behind. I cannot afford private school. I am not a teacher. North Shore students are going to be left behind if we don't open up our schools now. There is no reason that other districts, bars, and shopping malls can be open, but we can't open our school. Please figure out a resolution immediately. Thank you, Roberta Lang.
Thanks, Director Kogan. I'll pick it up. This is an email from Sarah Kozenski. I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly. The topic is in-person learning options for all grades. My name is Sarah Kozenski, and I am the parent of 3 NSD students, 1 2nd grader and 2 7th graders. I attended Canyon Park Junior High and Bothell High School class of 1993. I'm writing today to implore you to create a choice for education for middle and high school students to attend in-person school as soon as possible. You have heard stories of kids who are suffering greatly from being at home. We hear kids are resilient, but I would argue that they are until they are not. I am writing on behalf of the kids who are isolated, depressed, abused, hungry, anxious, neglected, and overwhelmed. These children look to us to create situations that can help them learn and become functioning adults. And although the pandemic caused chaos for everyone, you have the tough but rewarding job of helping our kids get back to school. Please consider a survey of middle school, high school students at an individual school level to see what students want to come back and then create a plan for them. We have empty schools and teachers who will soon be vaccinated that want to welcome back our students. Even though there are logistics that will be difficult to manage, it is possible. There are thousands of schools back in session across our country and hundreds in our state. Please listen to our governor, the science of COVID in schools, and other educators and administrators who have returned to school successfully. I would love nothing more for you all to be heroes to our kids, in addition to their wonderful teachers, and show them they matter. Please continue to do the hard work and come up with an in-person choice for education for middle and high schoolers this year. The next email is from Gail Toney, and the topic is remote learning is inequitable. North Shore School Board. I have 2 students at Inglemoor High. Over the past year, I have worked from home and witnessed my students' remote learning or lack thereof. I am terrified by the setback they have suffered. Few students participate in Zoom classes. Being new to high school, my kids don't know most of their classmates and have little to no interaction with other students. They are learning very little. High schoolers have little time to make up this lost year of education. Private schools and thousands of others around the country have successfully continued to operate or reopen. Students attending school in person are getting a much greater educational experience than those doing remote learning only. At the beginning of the pandemic, North Shore schools were the first to go remote learning. We were shut down because other districts weren't as prepared and it was not equitable for us to continue. Yet now other schools are returning to the classroom and we are not. That is not equitable. Our students deserve the same opportunities as others in our state. President Biden, Governor Inslee, the CDC, DOH, State Superintendent are all advocating to reopen schools. Why does North Shore not follow the guidance and mandates? Issaquah and Puyallup schools are reopening. Why not us? Why does North Shore think it knows better? How will our kids get into college if they can't compete with others on college entrance testing? How can they succeed in college without the necessary foundation of a solid high school education? Thousands of kids in our area are playing sports, including traveling to other states for large tournaments. No large outbreaks have been attributed to sports where kids are in much closer contact than they would be in classrooms. I implore you to do the right thing and mandate that all North Shore schools reopen by mid-April at the latest. It is time. Gail Toney. This next email is from Jennifer Fowler. My name is Jennifer, and I'm a mom of a freshman and senior who should be attending Bothell High School. My kids are not getting the proper education when classes are 15 minutes long or classes are canceled for no reason at all. The cancellation of classes happens at least every 2 weeks with both my kids. How is this okay? Any type of mention of Zoom, my son just rolls his eyes. My senior asks why he can't go to school when he sees other kids around him back in school, learning and thriving. I have never heard this board say can't so many times. What does that teach our children? Why can't we imagine the possibilities? We are not asking you to reinvent the wheel. Just take a good look around to see how these other districts around us are bringing kids back. Puyallup School District is the same size as North Shore, and they have managed to bring back high school students back to the classroom. What makes us so different? Now that teachers are being vaccinated, there is no excuse. How are districts around us with the same enrollment able to open, and we just sit at home watching our kids slip farther and farther behind? Follow the science, look to our leaders who are telling us it's safe to get back to the classroom. I ask that you look for a way to bring creative minds together and find a way so that our kids can get back to the classroom now. Jennifer Fowler. And this email is from Amy Dembrosia. Topic, my kid is not okay. My name is Amy. I have a freshman who should be attending Bothell High School and a 6th grader who should be attending Canyon Park. My children are suffering. I've watched my son go from a happy student who loves school to a depressed and lazy young man. The farther he falls behind, the more despondent he is. My freshman son withdrew from Bothell to attend a local high school offering 5 days a week on campus school. The change in demeanor and mental health was immediate. The tuition cost to our family is worth it financially for the mental well-being of our son. We are lucky we can manage the added tuition expense. Many families cannot. I work a part-time job so that I can be home with my kids, and now they're home without me. It is backwards. I fear for my children's mental health. I am scared of the lasting effects that isolation will have on their futures. Kids do not belong isolated at home by themselves. If North Shore does not offer in-person learning for all students by the fall of 2021, my student will be unenrolled from the North Shore School District and will not return. I am a 1992 graduate of Inglemoor High School and thought my own children would be North Shore students. I am regretting my choice and am disappointed that North Shore is watching other districts follow the science and reopen their schools while their own students suffer and fall behind at home. Please follow science. School is essential. Teachers are essential. In-person learning is essential. North Shore is facing a crisis related to continued remote learning. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now.
Okay, so I'm reading in public comment from Peter Otell. I am concerned about the lack of effort by the NSD to reopen schools. I have heard the superintendent refer to the school of the future. Honestly, I just want the school of today. I fear the long-term effects for my kids and all of the kids in the community from being isolated. Private schools have opened up. Florida has kept schools open all year. Are private schools in Florida much better than NSD? Some recent developments the board and superintendent should be aware of. President Joe Biden has recommended schools open for in-person learning. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee has recommended schools open for in-person learning. Washington State Superintendent of Public Instruction Chris Reichtel has recommended schools open for in-person learning. Other items to consider: RCW 28A.150.220, basic education, minimal instruction requirements, program accessibility rules. 1, in order for students to have the opportunity to develop the basic education knowledge and skills under the RCW 28A.150.210, school districts must provide instruction of sufficient quantity and quality and give students the opportunity to complete graduation requirements that are intended to prepare them for post-secondary education, gainful employment, and citizenship. And then we move on from the RCW to a bullet point. NSD is not complying with the RCW 28A.150.220. No one can argue that education currently provided is of sufficient quality. Another bullet point, NSD must open up schools to comply with state law. The board has responsibility to make sure this happens. And the next email is from Courtney Gould. Remote learning is not working. My name is Courtney, mother to a second grader and kindergartner at West Hill Elementary. My children are suffering as a result of remote learning. My second grader is a social child who loves school and learning. I have watched him struggle this past year in ways he has never, both emotionally and academically. He has fallen behind in core subjects that have never been difficult for him. Additionally, I have watched him become less and less engaged in learning as time goes on. He is so tired of his computer screen and lack of social interaction, and I fear this will negatively affect him for the rest of his life. My kindergartner has been forced to try and learn how to read, hold a pencil, and participate appropriately in a classroom setting from a computer screen. My engaging 6-year-old has lost interest in doing anything outside of the home and is desperate to learn and interact in a room with his peers. We are strongly considering private school for our children because this is becoming too difficult to continue. Please listen to science and follow the lead of other school districts. Opening all schools can happen safely. Our children desperately need in-person learning. The toll this is taking on their mental health and learning is too great. Please work swiftly towards full-time learning for elementary students who are not able to work independently 3 days a week. As much as we want them in a classroom, I'm very concerned about having less live instruction and interaction in the hybrid model. Please save our students, Courtney Gould. The next is from Cynthia Feeny. In-person learning is no longer necessary, especially for secondary. My IHS 11th grader has only attended in-person high school for 18 months out of 3 academic years. While she embraced the remote structure initially, she's grown weary of a temporary solution that is in danger of becoming a more permanent solution. As hopeful news is shared, teachers are vaccinated, community transmission is low. We still see the goalposts move for returning to school full time. There seems to be no hope or solutions, even as we see peers and families in other states attend school in person successfully. We moved my TMS 8th grader from the district last spring because remote school doesn't work for her. She has ADHD and a 504. Initially, it was a temporary solution, but with no plan or an intention of a plan this fall, we kept her in private school because they committed to a 2-day-per-week hybrid program. We planned on enrolling her in Innovation Lab High School for next year, which I strongly supported, but I decided against the decision since there's no clear intention to bring back any secondary students in any capacity this year or next. If North Shore does not offer in-person learning for all students by the fall of 2021, I am very unlikely to return my 8th grader back into the school district at any point during her high school years. We have taken an important step towards vaccinating teachers, which will protect our most vulnerable adults against death and serious disease. Now let's help our struggling students. While my kid might be doing okay, I know a lot of kids who aren't. Please take the steps to allow my rising senior graduate high school next year in person. And this is from Donna Holcomb. Topic: North Shore schools are supporting inequity. I am the mother of 3 children, 5th, 3rd, and kindergarten. North Shore schools are failing our children and our families. The quality of learning is not what is in person, and we need to stop pretending that it is. This year, my daughter's teacher, 5th grade, confirmed that she can only teach 50 to 75% of a normal year curriculum at best, gave a laundry list of items she doesn't have time to cover, and explained how many hours less she has to teach math. We had our children privately tested and our worst fears were confirmed. They are testing behind the mean for where they should be for their grade level. These are kids who used to excel at school. We are now paying out of pocket for private tutoring because we no longer have faith that North Shore schools can meet our children's academic needs. Due to the extreme cost, $1,500 per month, many families simply cannot afford this. While I'm grateful we can, it saddens me for those that cannot. In addition, I'm privileged to stay home with my children, but what about parents that can't? Helping 3 children with distance learning is a full-time job. You are keeping parents out of work. North Shore Board, you are ignoring the science. Your inaction is creating a widening gap between low-income and high-income families. contributing to depression in our youth, allowing our kids to fall behind in their education, and crippling work parents. We have lost faith in North Shore schools and the board. If this doesn't change soon, our children will be heading to private schools in order to get a better education. This saddens me deeply, but is the reality. Stop handicapping yourselves with indecision and make it happen, or bring someone in that can. Sincerely, Deanna Holcomb.
Sandy, you want me to take it over from here, or
Well, I
are you
did.
good?
I did
up to you.
4, but whatever you need.
It's up to you. Happy to take over if you want a break.
I can keep going.
Okay, all right,
Just
please do.
stop me when you're
You
ready.
just hand it off when you're thirsty.
Okay, so this one's from Dominique France. Topic: remote learning is inequitable. 2 days of in-person for K through 5 and no in-person classes for middle or high school is not equality at all. This is not equality of education or remotely fair to those who have both parents working outside of the home and no ability to watch them, or special needs children, or those who simply cannot learn online and are failing, and those struggling severely with mental health issues directly associate with this isolation. Open up for Ask Children on all days across all schools now, please. Look to ISD. They have a model rolling out that is hopeful at least. So this next one is from Heather Hansen. The topic is: it's time to return to full person in learning for all. My name is Heather, and I am a parent of a to-be kindergartner who would have been entering NSD in the fall of 2021. Both my husband and I work during business hours, and while our child is thriving in his in-person preschool, we cannot imagine teaching him remotely next year while balancing our own work as well, even if in a hybrid model. NSD's total lack of actionable communication or planning has driven us to enroll our son in private school next fall, despite the financial hardship this will bring to our family. Our own private school's in-person kindergarten class is already at capacity for fall 2021. Within the actual North Shore School District, parents are frustrated and fearful for what this extreme commitment to remote learning, despite the very real actual consequences on families and students, is doing to our community and children. All despite President Biden, the CDC, and Governor Inslee's strong encouragement to reopen schools and ample data that shows that it can be safe to do so. It is ironic that while Dr. Reed is being hailed for her communication and leadership, the posts promoting her so-called community communication events are filled with comments from parents begging for actual updates on her planning and strategy. And then there are 2 Facebook links. I won't read the links, but that's what's next. I strongly encourage you to bring the children back now. Otherwise, you will continue to lose families like ours to the private school system or other options, which will have drastic and long-term impacts on the community. Regards, Heather. This one's from Kimberley Woodard. To my NSD school board. I am the parent of a 5th, 9th, and 11th grader. I had to take a leave of absence from my teaching position this year to homeschool my 5th grade son who would not learn online last spring. I'm also saving his 2 friends from remote learning by teaching them too. I should have taken more kids, but could not fathom our kids would still be out of school this late to the school year. Boy, was I wrong. I am writing because the fact that the students in our school district are still being kept out of in-person school is keeping me up at night and preoccupying my mind all day, every day. I cannot believe that you and Dr. Reed are not more of a panic to get schools back in school. The recent hybrid plan to phase K through 5 students back into school should have been the plan back in September, not March, April, May. We know returning kids to school can be safely done. The teachers union is standing up for the teacher, but who is standing up for the children of our district? Please help the students. Kimberley Woodard. Well, like I said, I'll just keep going until someone stops me. Okay, this next one is from Laura Thomas. The topic is prioritization of prioritize our kids and open in-person learning for all students now. My name is Laura, and I have a junior who is enrolled at Bothell High School. I am shocked and dismayed by the North Shores District's willingness to go from leading the way in appropriate action during this pandemic to being so behind the science and evidence and putting other concerns before the education and well-being of our students. COVID has been hard on everyone, but it is increasingly clear that our kids are bearing the brunt of it, and that is no longer okay. Online learning is not very effective. It is not equitable. It is not a good solution, and it is damaging our kids through elementary through high school. I know of no one whose student is succeeding in this climate. Most every kid I know, including my own, is in therapy, seeking therapy, on medication, or needing other mental health support to deal with the frustration, isolation, and difficulties of the situation. It is time for North Shore to follow the lead of most everywhere else in the world that has prioritized their kids and their education during this crisis. Doctors, nurses, metro drivers, grocery store workers, trash collectors, restaurant workers, and countless others have been required to stay on their jobs and work with whatever the best science guidelines and protection plans were available. It is time to require educators to do the same. It's time we put our kids first. The small potential dangers posed to educators pales in comparison to the actual damage our kids have been suffering and will continue to suffer the longer they are out of school. School is essential, teachers are essential, in-person learning is essential. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students now. Laura Thomas.
I'm happy to take a spell here, Sandy,
Okay.
if you'd like. Yeah. The next comment is from Lila Bella. I am the mom of a 3rd and 5th grader who should be attending school in person at Maywood Elementary. This year, I've watched my sons fall farther and farther behind, as remote learning is not a long-term solution and is impacting their academic progress. My 3rd grader was identified as high cap in math and as a 1st grader, and now I'm told that he's at grade level and could even use some help because the only proxy his teacher uses to assess his progress is iReady. He's forced to sit in front of a computer day after day, checking the boxes, 30 minutes of iReady math, 30 minutes of iReady reading, 30 minutes of typing club, and the list goes on. He's never asked to turn in assignments, and even simple assignments such as spelling tests and math homework have been eliminated. As a leadership group for NSD, you and Dr. Reed should be ashamed. While I am hopeful that my 5th grader will get to step back in the classroom before he transitions to middle school, I am worried that NSD will continue to delay, resulting in remote learning for the remainder of the school year. All he wants to do is experience these last few months of elementary school in person, but given your lack of action, this is being taken away from him. Furthermore, what concerns me even more is the stance you are taking without following the recommendations of hundreds of experts. That will likely lead to him having no in-person option next year. I hope that I am wrong. The time has come for you to be the leaders that you were elected to be. Follow the science and do the right thing by offering in-person learning to all students now. The next letter is from Leslie Benson. My name is Leslie, and I'm a mom to a 1st grader who should be attending class at Eastridge Elementary School. My family is not fine. Before North Shore School District turned to remote learning, my son had never been happier. He finally was able to ride the school bus and was so excited to tell us everything he learned, what his teachers did, who he played with on the playground, even what he ate or didn't. This year, everything changed. My happy son repeatedly tells me how much he hates school, hates learning, and hates attending the Zoom meetings. And this is coming from a 7-year-old. He's so young and should never have this point of view at such an early age. My happy son now has frequent episodes of depression, anxiety, and screaming fits daily. 2 years ago, we moved here because North Shore had the best teachers in schools. I have never been proven so wrong. The online teaching is a disaster. My son gets 3 live meetings, approximately 15 minutes each of interaction with his teacher, maybe an additional 5 minutes during his small group time. The rest of the time he is watching videos, and it's not even his teacher. The video is his teacher playing a video of another teacher that is probably somewhere else in the world. Each video is 10 to 15 minutes long, and they are expected to watch and then do the lesson on their own. Did I mention he is 7 years old? Returning to the school for the 1 to 2 days a week is not enough. You need to do better. My family depends on it. If you do not have all days in class next fall, I'll be forced to enroll my son in a private school or transfer to Snohomish. I beg you to open up the schools, not just for all students, but for all days. Leslie Benson. The next is from Melanie McCracken. We are new to NSD and we're excited to have our girls attend your schools. I'm incredibly disappointed, sad, and greatly fear we've made the wrong choice for our children. My daughter has outbursts and is sad, crying randomly because she can't see or meet her classmates and is lonely and frustrated. She was full of excitement and joy at the beginning of the year. The brazen disregard of parent concerns for the emotional health of children on multiple occasions is shocking, but tells me how far removed leadership is or extreme denial. I cry with her because there are no more reasonable excuses to justify this enduring. My second grader was assessed by 2 separate establishments. They both conclude that she is behind the standard. She has attended every Zoom call, music, PE, library, additional time her teacher has graciously given and completed all assignments. She has received approximately 20% feedback on assignments since September. How is this adequate to know what a child is doing well? Is this adequate to know what a child is doing well or where they need help? No video can replace the real-time feedback, connection, and interactions that in-person learning provides. Her teacher works hard to support each kid, and I'm thankful for her. We have done everything required. Online learning doesn't work for most kids. Enough is enough. I am sad for all NSD children with the educational, social, and emotional development they have lost. This district leadership needs to set children and teachers up for success. Teachers and kids have successfully and safely been in the classroom. Schools need to open now. Every day matters. What is the plan to fix the severe educational disparities for all kids? For my second grader, why can her sisters go safely in person? Why does her former school/district have a plan and back in school, but her new school cannot? Melanie McCracken. This one's from Melinda Hopper. My name is Melinda and I'm the mom to an 8th grader in the FSA program at Timbercrest, as well as a freshman and a junior at Woodinville High School, both of whom have IEPs. They have great teachers, but remote learning is not working for them. They're losing ground fast. My kids are miserable. They are suffering. NSD is not in compliance with the law. I am an essential employee who has continued working since the beginning of the pandemic, as has my husband and all my adult children. If we can do that along with the hundreds of thousands of other essential workers, teachers can get back in school. If they don't want to, then perhaps they should be used to teach online for students who can't return to school, or they can look for another career. The same choice we have all had to make. If North Shore School District does not offer an in-person learning for all students by the fall of 2021, our family will have no choice but to enroll our students from NSD. The CDC says, get the kids back. The governor says, get the kids back. Other districts have the kids back. The president wants kids back. Parents want the kids back. Students want to come back. Please follow science and the lead of school districts all over the United States and give our children the choice to be back in school where they belong. School is essential. Teachers are essential. In-person learning is essential. We are facing a crisis related to continued remote learning when districts all over the country have returned to full in-person learning. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now. Melinda S. Hopper. Next is from Tammy Gerchow. Dear school board, I'm a parent of a 12th grader in the North Shore School District. We moved here years ago because of the stellar reputation of this district. In recent months, we have become disappointed in the leadership of NSD. We have family members across our state who now have high school kids back in classrooms. Their district is larger than North Shore. They figured it out. Some are teaching in person and online at the same time. Something we've been told is just too difficult for North Shore teachers. Clearly, this is not true. The nonstop excuses, blaming other entities, and calls for more meetings is getting unacceptable. It's your job to figure out an on-campus option. You are late to the table. Why has North Shore neglected to implement an immediate plan for our seniors to be on campus? Why has months of asking, pleading, submitting plausible options that fall within the current state guidelines been ignored and fallen on deaf ears? Seniors have very little time left. In the last few meetings, 95% of the conversation is about elementary. Our seniors need an on-campus option immediately. We're working on it is not good enough anymore. We also need to know the plan for graduation. Families need to coordinate and plan. What is your current plan for in-person graduation? Not having an in-person plan in place at this point is unacceptable. Why haven't you initiated and made seniors a priority? Thank you, Tammy Gerchow. All right, I'll do one more, and then Jack, if you want to take it from there. Next is from Tammy Monson. My name is Tammy, and I'm the mom of a junior who should be attending IHS. Our family is suffering. I've watched my very social girl who loves to be in leadership positions crumble over the last 365 days. She spends hours alone in her room, unmotivated. After spending 8 hours a day in front of a computer screen in classes and doing homework, she is moody, lonely, and withdrawn. She has suffered a major eye issue that requires several doctor visits and a neurology appointment. The doctor isn't sure why the rare disease struck her, but believes it is related to looking at a screen for 8 hours a day. She's had to go to a chiropractor for neck and back issues. He said he is seeing so many young kids with screwed up backs and necks from sitting in front of their computers. I fear for her mental health. I worry about how living in isolation is going to impact her long term. We are now looking into moving for her senior year to enroll her in a school that will be in person full time. Please, NSD, wake up, follow the science and the lead of districts all over our state and the entire US. Give our children a choice now. Dr. Fauci made it very clear on March 4th, 2021, you have the ability to make decisions about 6 feet versus 3 feet at the local level. Governor Inslee made it very clear in the Seattle Times interview that he is very tired of your excuses. The Oregon governor made it very clear that high schools will open no later than April 19th. Do the right thing, NSD. See children as essential. All right.
Okay, thank you, President Swain. The next letter is from Ivana Long. Please, 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 in-person learning for all students ASAP, especially seniors and 8th graders. My name is Ivana, and my 7th grader and 8th grader, both in high-cap programs since 3rd grade, are struggling a lot with online school. Both kids used to have only A grades all these years, never a B. It was heartbreaking to see their grades in the range from B to F and their desperation, helplessness, and tears this past year. These are our kids who always were among the top of the class, who were tested and passed the high-cap test in 3rd grade, being in the top 3% at that time. Online school does not work for them. Even doing our best, it's painful as parents to feel helpless as we watch them fail and we can't help them enough. We know schools can be open safely. Our kids even have friends in big private schools who have been going to school safely since September. They don't understand why their school can't. They are old enough to realize that it was the virus that closed the schools, but it's not the virus that keeps schools closed now. It's proven. There's no reason to keep schools closed while most other places are open. It only proves children are the last priority. Please open schools ASAP for those who want to be in person. Thousands of children are suffering, totally unjustified. Show that you care before many of us put our children in private schools. This is what our plan is for us if the public schools stay closed. Thank you, Ivana Long. Next, letters from Kara Cecil. In-person learning for all students now. As an NSD parent, I have heard phrases like growth mindset and imagine the possibilities many times. Our district even opened a new high school innovation lab. I'm so thankful the district encourages my children to stretch and try versus fearing failure. Unfortunately, the current message being sent to my family is it's too difficult and we might not get things 100% correct, so we shouldn't try. Our students, community, teachers, school leaders, and parents are an amazing group of creative and innovative people. There's not a problem we can't overcome, except bringing all students back for in-person learning. What if we reached out to local places of worship to see if we could serve students there? Maybe tents in the parking lot and free coats for all students. My point is that it seems that the perspective from the school board, administration, and union has been, we can't, and that has been a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's change our mindset to we can and explore our options. Our teachers are doing an amazing job, but I continue to see my children plummet into depression. One of my children said, I feel like I am imprisoned in my room for school. Mental health counseling has become a weekly appointment. My kids have no hope that the people in control of their school experience see them and are working hard to get them back to in-person learning. If there were facts and data to advocate for continued remote learning, I would be on board. Unfortunately, NSD is relying on their own wisdom versus following state guidelines. Please put our innovative community spirit to work and bring all students back to in-person learning. Oops. The next one that I have is from Julia Brent. Hello, school board and Superintendent Reed, who makes all the critical decisions for my child's future. Remote learning is inequitable and my kid on an IEP is not okay. Julia, I won't distribute your contact information here. I am the mom of a senior who should be attending Woodinville High School in person. I wanted to communicate to you that my daughter with an IEP has been struggling with the online learning format. Since the shutdowns, she has lost her job, her ability to socialize in person with friends and family, her ability to attend school in person, her dance classes twice a week, her high school musicals in which she found so much joy participating in. She was 2 years ahead of her grade in math, supposed to be taking Calc 1 this year for her goals of STEM, career, and college. Since online learning math was too complicated for her, she had to drop out of calculus. This has all taken a hit to her self-confidence in her STEM abilities. Please follow science and the lead of school districts all over the United States and give our children the choice to be back in school where they belong. School is essential, teachers are essential, in-person learning is essential. We are facing a crisis related to continued remote learning when districts all over the country have returned to full in-person learning. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice to all students within the district now. Sincerely, Julia Brent.
Director McGurty, I just want to point out that I just need to mention that Patrick St. Mary also submitted the same comment. So I told him I would mention that.
So that same letter is both from Julia and Patrick St. Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
So I will,
thank you.
Let's see. And I have a second one here from Julia. Let's see. Okay, next one I have here is from Tracy Groby. Topic, get the seniors back for in-person school. The class of 2021 is running out of time and desperately needs in-person school. Do the right thing. Give them the care, the connections, and the closure they need. This group of students has spent barely over 2 years in their high schools. North Shore needs to adjust its reopening plans to give seniors the attention they deserve. Don't be fooled into thinking that just because there is a committee in place that it is working well. I am tired of hearing leadership touting the work being done for seniors, while at the same time they have allowed so much red tape to be entwined into that activity. The approval process includes so many hoops to jump through, cabinet reviews, meetings, etc., which just adds weeks to the timeline, making it even less likely for any senior activities to happen. The senior committee is a group of well-intentioned, passionate people made up of parents, students, and principals. They are coming up with great ideas to help seniors, yet are met with countless hurdles put in place by the district. It is demoralizing and makes the ideas almost impossible to achieve. The failures of the district in supporting its seniors has led community members to create non-school sponsored events that fall 100% within state and health protocols. The community's action enables the district to continue to do nothing. That is not okay. North Shore can look around and see clearly how the community and surrounding districts have come together for the class of 2021. And as a result, North Shore should be embarrassed by its inaction and inattention to seniors. Look at the calendar. Our seniors only have 3 months left of high school. Show them you care about them. Adjust the reopening plans. Open your hearts to the class of 2021. More importantly, open their classrooms.
Director McCurdy, I can pick it up from here.
Okay, thank you, Director
Thank
Kogan.
you.
Excuse me, Director Copeland, if you don't mind, President Swain, I'd like to make a motion to amend our agenda and take the few minutes it would take to finish reading public comment.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded to extend our 1 hour public comment time period. And yeah, I think that is appropriate. We don't have too many remaining, but we want to make sure we get them all in. So is there discussion? Okay, no discussion being heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Please
Thank you,
continue, Director Kogan. Thank you, Director Cast.
Thank you, President Swain. This next email is from Lillian Kramer. Hi, I'm a mom with 3 children in the NSD. I have a 9, 7, and 4th grader. I have listened to the last 2 school board meetings as well as the coffee with the superintendent last week. I am significantly disappointed with NSD at this time. My son has a 504 with vision accommodations. He only has use of one eye for his primary vision. To be completely online with computer work for over a year is not working for him. He needs to be back in school now. How is this acceptable? My question is about the fall plan to return to school. From listening to the last several meetings, there is a strong likelihood of hybrid in the fall. Lake Washington School District has developed a plan for a complete separate program, one for online and one for kids returning to in-person school. Why has NSD not done this? Hybrid with only 2 days of instruction is unacceptable. The 3 days of asynchronous learning does not work. Any school board members wanting to volunteer to be at our house for those 3 days to sit and teach. My daughter is taking some AP classes and it is not enough instruction time. We have applied to private schools for our children to go to private school in the fall. This has also caused a great deal of personal anxiety to cover the cost. The private schools, however, are past capacity with very limited spots remaining for the fall. We are not certain if we can even get in. What are we to do? Please open schools 5 days a week now. Lillian Hampton. The next email is from Paul Waham, or excuse me, Melinda Waham, sorry about that. Topic: in-person learning for all students now. My name is Melinda and I am the mom of an 8th grader who should be attending Canyon Park Middle School. My daughter was a straight A student, but her grades have fallen this year as it is hard for students to stay engaged all day on Zoom, and she is uncomfortable asking questions online that she would normally be okay asking in a classroom environment or talking to a teacher between classes. The more she is in her room on her device for school, not getting physical activity or interacting with friends, the more withdrawn and uninterested she has become in everything. Kids need in-person learning, not just to stay engaged with their classes, but to develop the relationships with teachers and other students. I can't imagine the damage this is doing for their social skills that are developing at this age. I was disappointed to see that the superintendent is making statements that there will be some form of in-person school in the fall. This implies she is intending to drag this online model into fall of 2021, rather than put effort into full in-person. I am now regretting my choice for keeping my daughter at NSD this year, as I never thought the online school would go all year, and now have to consider private school in the fall. If our district and superintendent are so dynamic and worthy of so much commendation, why can other school districts figure out how to do it safely, but NSD claims they cannot? I'm not sure what the agenda is by the school board, union, the superintendent, when the president, the governor, and the CDC are saying to get kids back in the classrooms. I implore you to do the right thing for our kids and offer an in-person choice for all students within the district now. Melinda Hopper. The next email is from Shade Johnson. Subject topic, return 6 to 12 graders now. To NSD school board members, I am the mother of a 7th and 11th grader and NSD substitute employee. It is time to send our 6th through 12th graders back to school. Follow the science, the CDC and Governor Inslee's direction, and many other states and districts' models. Let these young adults have access to the education they are accustomed to in our district. As an NSD substitute and an employee within the district, I am fully ready to return to work and have no qualms about being in the classroom with any age students. Modifications can be made and a safe return this month could happen for these students. The developmental needs for preteens and teens outside of academics needs to be addressed. Virtual counseling and online hubs will not meet these needs. Young adults need movement, eye contact, peer interaction, emotional engagement, helpful attention, acknowledgement of their choices and decisions, communication verbally with adult mentors, to name a few. These things are attempted in an online environment, but fall incredibly short. No matter how hard our teachers try, the only way teens can receive this support is in person. Bottom line, these students need face-to-face time to participate in engaging education. Sitting in front of a screen all day does not equate student engagement. I love my girls' teachers at Skyview and North Creek High School, but no matter what we all try to do, it is not the level of education promised by NSD. At this point, my girls are hoping to just get through their education at NSD. They are both high achievers and are exhausted mentally. Is this what you want for students in our district? Return to the NSD standard and allow 6th through 12th graders access to the education they deserve. Thank you, Shea Johnson. The next email is from Amber Wendover. Here you go, thank you. My name is Amber and I'm the mom of a freshman and junior. I have helped organize a club event that brings 35 high schoolers together at 6:15 a.m. several times a week. We have followed all the safety protocols listed by the governor. I know it is not an easy task to bring 35 kids together right now, which means I can imagine it's no easy task to bring entire schools back. However, when high school boys coming together 3 times a week from 6:15 to 7:30, these boys whom I know get up at 7:58 for their 8 o'clock Zoom class or sleep well past the noon hour on weekends are getting up 3 days to be together by 6:15. The excitement of them being together is priceless. The energy is like nothing I've ever seen before. These boys want to be together. They want their community and without any complaints about being tired or having to follow COVID guidelines. We have educated them on the importance of protocol and they follow every instruction given. They remind each other of the rules too. They say they won't break the rules because they don't want this opportunity to be taken from them. School is the center of our community, and for kids, it's their community. They need each other. They need other kids. They need a chance to see people and for people to see them. They need for other adults to say hello, provide direction and encouragement. I am not asking for full-time school, but please get all kids at least in hybrid this year. Give all kids a chance to be a school for short periods of time so they can see each other. Every child deserves a chance to be inside a school if they choose.
Thank you, Director Kogan. I'll pick up with an email from Todd Bricks. I am a graduate of the North Shore School District and have 2 children in NSD now. We are not making adequate progress on reopening schools for our children's academic, mental, and social well-being. The children are suffering from inaction. We need to reopen now. Our state constitution says quite clearly that, quote, it is the paramount duty of the state to make ample provision for the education of all children residing within its borders, end quote. A paramount duty is defined as, quote, more important than anything else, supreme, end quote. Note, more important than anything else. We need North Shore School District board members as elected by the people to exercise your full authority to fulfill this paramount duty and authorize the date, means, and manner of our schools reopening. We do not lack data, science, vaccines, safety guidelines, protocols, PPE, bipartisan official support, rapidly falling COVID case counts, excuse me. Sorry, I had a tickle. Rapidly falling COVID case counts, best practices from other large suburban peer school districts in our state and across the country to reopen. In fact, we have all of these and have for some time. What we seem to lack is the courage to make a clear commitment. We need in-person, we need it for all grades and all our students. We need it equivalent to every day. We need a date. We need this commitment now. Let us decide tonight that 3 weeks from today, on Monday, March 29th, all grades and all schools will return to in-person learning. We need solutions to make this goal happen, but we need the goal articulated clearly first. We then plan the work and then work the plan. It's unfortunate we are late to this decision as Sammamish, Vancouver, Spokane, and neighboring Snohomish school districts return. I strongly encourage the school board to vote unanimously tonight and do as hundreds of school districts all over the state of Washington have recently done and reopen our school for in-person education. Let's not let North Shore be among the last to acknowledge and act on its paramount duty after being the first to deal with this pandemic. We can do this. Todd Bricks. And the next email is from Maria Cohn. Dear North Shore School District School Board Superintendent Reed, given that Governor Inslee and President Biden announced this afternoon that all teachers will be eligible to be vaccinated right away in phase 1B1 and will have supplies to cover all teachers by the end of March for at least their first dose, and that current county COVID case counts indicate that all grades should be back in some form of in-person learning now without a vaccine for all teachers, and that the Issaquah School Board just voted to return all grades K through 12 to the classroom. Students and parents demand that you call an emergency meeting of the board and set a date of April 1st for a return to in-person learning for all students in all grades who choose to return. All students who choose to return are back for full school days, at least 4 days per week. There are no more excuses. Kids need to be back in class. Thank you, Maria Cohn. Okay, and I just want to confirm, President Swain, there's only one email left, but it's from Sunday, February 28th. It is titled Public Comments. I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's just one more, and I don't see any private or
Yeah,
information.
should be
So I'll go
good.
ahead and it's the last one, so I'll go ahead and read
I
it.
appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay, dear Superintendent Reed, school board members, and other leadership. I'm taking there. We have a school board policy that we don't cite employees of the district by name. So there's another individual I'm not going to name. As a grandparent of a student at Bothell High School, I was very disappointed to see the reopening plan that was shared late Friday night. The plan is at odds with the science and the data and does not address the urgent needs of our children. I urgently request that you deliver a plan that gives families in all grades the choice to return to in-person learning by the end of March. Your inaction is putting the future of North Shore School District at risk. Parents are rapidly losing hope and considering alternatives if you don't act now. In a poll of concerned NSD parents recently, over 52% indicated that they plan to pull their children out of NSD if in-person instruction was not made available in the fall. Another 38% indicated they are seriously considering it, bringing the total at risk to over 90%. The parents of this district have reacted well and have maintained their composure so far, but make no mistake, enrollment levels, funding, and jobs for teachers are at risk moving forward. You have very little time to course correct and align your decision-making with the needs of 1, our children, 2, federal and state guidance, and 3, the science and data. To Superintendent Reed, please ensure that the district and every school has the necessary safety protocols in place to protect teachers and ensure that it is clearly communicated to teachers ASAP. In-person school as a choice for all students is absolutely necessary. To other leadership, please negotiate in good faith to preserve enrollment in our district and protect jobs and the financial health of our district. NSD School Board, please initiate a call to action to set a definite deadline for the return of in-person school as a choice for all students by the end of March. Your current proposed reopening plan does not address the urgency of the crisis at hand. The children are suffering and parents are quickly losing faith in your leadership. We insist that you recognize the damage your plan will do to our children, especially in grades 6 and up, and the viability of the district moving forward. A concerned member of the community, Ellery Paul Berg.
Thank you, Director Cass and fellow directors, for reading all the public comments, and thank you to the public for your submissions. Just want to make a note, those last two emails that were read, there were multiple submissions of the same emails, so we wanted to at least read one of each so that they were publicly read. All right, we will now move on to our adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, the adoption of the consent agenda is, there's been a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All right, the motion's been approved 5-0. Thank you. We'll now move on to action items. Our one action item this evening is contract extension, request for bids for secondary school yearbooks from Balfour Publishing. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. This is an item, Siobhan, could you please bring up the item, please? Thank you. This is an item that Joy Coleman and Mike Bailey have been working with our yearbook advisors at our schools utilizing yearbook classes. And it's an option that they would prefer at this time, which is to roll forward their contract 1 year. And it requires board action due to the size of the contract. Siobhan, if you want to kind of scroll up here real quick, there you go. Thank you. It's it would essentially roll from September 1, 2021. The current contract ends August 31st, 2021. So it would roll it from September 1 to August 31st, 2022. And this would be for the request for bid for yearbooks for the North Shore School District secondary schools specifically. We did discuss it briefly at Cabinet this morning, and it is something that's been worked on and discussed within the secondary school annual advisors as well. I would recommend approving.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions?
So just really quick, Superintendent Reed, no terms have changed. It's just a simple 1 year extension. That's the only difference.
I believe so. Siobhan, you want to keep rolling it? Yeah, we would have to negotiate terms of difference. It wouldn't be a roll forward. So it's my understanding the terms would remain the same for 1 year.
Thank you.
Dr. Reed, is this a contract of commitment? Is it or costs of yearbooks kind of negotiated later? Or?
We've already set the costs, you know, the student for this year. So the costs for next year are often in fees reviewed over the summer. What they're basically saying is this summer, that's one piece they would prefer, or excuse me, this spring, it's a rather lengthy process to do a bid, and often that's for multiple years. And they would prefer to roll forward 1 year and do the multiple year bid next spring.
I'm just thinking out loud just about the lack of events for the school year at the secondary level. You know, you think about yearbooks full of photographs and et cetera. I'm just wondering if it will be less expensive. And then on that note, we, you know, as we've discussed in the past, we've had a huge ASB yearbook continuing balance from year to year.
Right.
It would be nice if we could, if there's enough there to drastically or somewhat reduce the cost of yearbooks to our students.
I'll bring that up with our budget department and have them check that.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that's usually an in and out, right? Students pay the fees, which add up to a sum, and then there's the cost to purchase the books. But let me do a double check on that.
I appreciate it. Any other questions, comments? All right. Do we have a motion to approve? Or
President Swain, I'll make a motion that we approve to extend the Belfour yearbook contract for 1 additional year.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Director McGrudy. We have a motion to approve the action item in a second. Further discussion? None. I'll call for the vote then. All right, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, that's it for action items this evening. We'll move on to our performance reviews. This evening we'll be reviewing monitoring report for superintendent parameter P10, which is about technology. Dr. Reed, if you will.
Yeah, thanks, President Swain. Siobhan, if you could bring up the monitoring report for P10. This is a 6-page document. I want to particularly commend Alan Miedema and Shelby Reynolds and their team. Alan and Shelby, I met with them and I think they've done a really nice job capturing the unique work set that we've been engaged on in the last year. And if you can go ahead and scroll up, please, Siobhan. I want to confirm that the information that I'm presenting to you this evening on March 8th is accurate and in accordance with our monitoring schedule. Further, I believe that I am in compliance with P10 in that we have not failed to establish and maintain technology systems and applications to support the accomplishment of the board's goal policy through the use of a district technology plan. And we were talking in cabinet this morning how nice it is to have the plan. There was a great deal of work done on it a year ago. And I think you see built in the plan also a pathway forward for a more robust evaluation of program. Both with Clever, there's been data and there's some analytics attached to this report as also we have a new learning platform software that's coming on board that will enable our instructional leadership team, which partners with our instructional team to look at what programs are students using in what schools to what outcome, right? So a lot of, I think, work that is new work for us in terms of looking at program evaluation for technology and really an interesting plan with all the things that have happened. So Siobhan, if you want to go ahead and kind of scroll through, you've had an opportunity to take a look at that. Here's the learning platform, Clever educational technology piece. We're also looking at a more comprehensive and robust managerial tech system for a variety of topics, student data, professional development. We're rolling out new technology in transportation. As you know, we've discussed Tyler Technologies and the tablet and app work for students and parents as we begin to put students back on buses. We also have just a variety of technology topics that we're thinking about. So you can kind of see we've been piloting a data program. If you could just stop for a minute, Siobhan, stop please. We're looking at a learning management system as well, which has been our backbone. And honestly, a number of students and staff have really found that to be helpful in organizing their work. And I think we've been piloting a homeroom data solutions as well to support our multi-tiered system of support, MTSS work. So thanks, Siobhan. This also, we can look at it since March of 2020. We've deployed nearly 11,800 computing devices within the district, and 1,900 hotspots have been distributed for internet access. And that's a significant data point. And just thinking about our technology, food services, and communications department have coordinated just a significant amount of supports, not just with hotspots, but with other OSPI supported Comcast, Zigbee, Fiber, Presidio, a number of other options for families, and continue to support them in that. The digital citizenship work, particularly headed up by Shelby Reynolds, has been really consistently positive in terms of trying to provide a safe and secure computing environment. And at the network level, we also have staff working very hard to support our network health, I guess. Phishing scams, we've really addressed. We've added a network security engineer to the instructional technology department. As we rely more and more on technology, the security of our technology is, of utmost importance. So I would be happy to take any questions or answer any concerns on our P10 technology parameter report.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Questions from the floor?
I'll kick us off here. I have a couple of questions, Superintendent Reed. So in terms of the program evaluation, with the example from the Clever app, which it's helpful to get that additional detail attached to the agenda, but I notice in the report, it seems to be worded in the future tense with, words like will. So I guess I'm a bit confused in terms of the status of whether or not the program evaluation is in place now, the date of the report, or if it's still in planning.
The Clever metrics are theoretically in place now. The learning platform we just purchased. So that will be something we'll be looking at moving forward. This spring, our hope is, as we've brought the learning platform on, to be able to look at that software enables us to have a full-on program evaluation. So this year's wouldn't be complete since it's early March. It probably won't be till June that we'll have a look at all the metrics. Clever is in place, and the learning platform, as it's just purchased, isn't fully implemented yet. That's correct.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification. And I guess my concern arises from the fact that it's time for work to be done on planning what we might be asking the voters for support for the next tech levy.
Right.
And so that program evaluation is obviously a very important aspect of that work. And so with the data wouldn't be starting to be collected in June. Did I understand that correctly? So we wouldn't necessarily have the data ready. So I don't know if it could retroactively get the data is my concern.
Well, program evaluation would be there are a variety of facets to that, right? Okay. Number of types of software students are using is one piece, and learning platform will give us that data. Just as Clever provides the data on what students are accessing. That's different than how, in terms of the number of devices we've deployed and our students able to access technology through this. So there are a number of evaluations that take a look at program. What we're really looking at, I think, with this learning platform is what educational applications might support our core curriculum as we return to physical classrooms. Okay. And for those students choosing to stay online in the fall, we want to make sure that we select an online support curriculum that's really suited to online. So we want to look at a variety of the options that we have tried in different buildings and make sure that as we look at those, what have gotten the most use and where are students thriving in terms of its ability to be used. So I think, yes, learning platform is going to be we're not going to see a lot of evidence of its impact until June. Clever, we're seeing now, and there are other pieces that we're evaluating that would be part of that total program. I know you're going to have a report on the 22nd during our retreat from our technology department and kind of where they're seeing things. And that'll be another data point that would be evaluative in the sense of what we've purchased and where we see things headed with that.
Okay, and I would think an important part of that program evaluation is on the hardware as well, because that was obviously such a large part of the purchase.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. And another question, I see the reference to Microsoft's Return to School program.
Right.
I've seen that reference. I think a lot of school districts do use it. So just want to confirm that obviously it's good that a platform has been identified to support the attestations that are necessary and all that. Just want to confirm it's ramping up. It'll be ready to go when we get those first little footsteps coming in.
Yeah, we have a team working with the other districts and Microsoft on attestation and the technology support for that. So as soon as the students scamper back to campus, we should have this technology in place and a way for doing that. And I think we're actually probably going to be putting together, and we've been working on an in-house tool as well, because I think the Microsoft tool that everyone's counting on is not completely ready yet. It's still in their beta test form.
Okay, but that's been identified obviously then by IT that we that's part of the program management project management rather of getting the little footsteps back, and so they're getting ready to support that.
That's correct.
Okay. So I know it's amongst all the work that's been done this past year, it's just important to follow up on those details. So thank you.
Yes, and I think there are a lot of vendors out there. You know, I think all of our email boxes, all superintendents and so forth, IT directors with new products, new apps, new et cetera. And what we really need to make sure, and our IT department's been really good about this, is kind of staying focused and honing in on what works within our system. And we'll be ready when students come back.
Thank you.
You bet.
Other
questions for Dr. Reed?
If I could just jump in for a quick minute. First to thank you and your staff for the report. I think we all appreciate the amount of work that has gone into technology and IT over the last year when we were all kind of put into this situation. And Director Meadham and his staff have just done an amazing job, you know, researching all of these options and implementing what we need. And I know I appreciate the agility to switch into different modes as we learn more about what's needed and what's working for our students. Also just wanted to comment, I appreciate that there's been X amount of time to put these systems into place, and acknowledge that we're still collecting information on the students' use, and of course, hoping to correlate to their outcomes. And so we'll really look forward to that update on the 22nd to see how it's progressing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Director McGorty. I think both your point and Director Cast, I think the weakest part, obviously, of our support has been that program evaluation. And I would say this past year, so many new programs, honestly, have been implemented. It's also difficult to do any kind of year-over-year look because we've never had a year quite like this year. So it's created another wrinkle, if you will, in terms of what we would call evaluative strategies, I guess, for lack of a better term. We've also thought about the evaluation of professional development, right? The teachers, support staff, everybody in the district has required an enormous lift around professional development. And, you know, its evaluation, what is, you know, how are we feeling about the productivity of that? So there are just a variety of topics we're really taking a hard look at in terms of how to best move forward and be ready for the fall. And obviously we want to welcome as many students back to in-person learning as possible in the fall.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Sandy? Director Hayes?
Yeah. Thank you, President Swain. So, first of all, recognizing the timeline of our thanks to our community for the passage of the technology levy that put us in a position of having the devices to create the one-to-one environment just in time, if you will, of the start of this. And so that was huge, and that obviously needed to be the focus, and so appreciative of that work. My question really is for the rest of the board, and I know I've brought this up in the past, but this technology parameter has always kind of I struggle with it because it feels like it's covering way too much ground. It's the hardware, software, it's the technology supports for instruction, it is the technology usage of students, and it is instruction of students in technology such as digital citizenship or computer programming. And it feels like that, for me, that might be too much for one parameter, that it's hard to really kind of delve into the importance of all that, because as we go back to in-person learning, the technology component is not going away. That will still continue. It just won't be all remote learning, but technology will continue to be with us. And so it's going to continue to be a very important part of instruction. So, and I'm not suggesting that this happened, certainly not suggesting it happened tonight. I'm certainly not even in the near future, but maybe in the summer of kind of wrestling with that. And if it's just me that struggles with that, I will continue to learn and figure out how to deal with that. But it was just a thought I had.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Director Hayes. It does cover a lot of ground, and we want to make sure we're, as a board, focusing in on the educational aspect of taking advantage of technology. And then there's the weeds, right? Fiber and hardware and software, and they're the same but separate, right? In a lot of ways. So I agree, that's a good topic for discussion at a later time, unless you want to bring something up during our review. But I think we'll have a time at a study session coming weeks to discuss it. Anyone else?
Yeah, President Swain, I just wanted to follow up on a comment that Dr. Reed made. And in this report, we talk about the professional development that happened. I mean, in no year has technology played a bigger part of education. And the fact that so many staff members were brought up to speed on these online tools, new software, through trainings, but also tech support, and then being able to teach that to their students so that we could get an online learning program stood up so quickly is really an incredible achievement. So I just wanted to call that out. And then to follow up on Director Hayes's point, talk about the hardware, the training, the software, the security of the network. That is a whole lot of stuff. And then we have this other component, which is kind of the program evaluation, using technology for that. And maybe that might be a natural break to kind of focus on the guts of the work, and then maybe the analysis that we can get from the systems.
Yeah, just to respond to your point, Director Hayes, the parameter does cover a lot. We do have other parameters that do as well. I'd say our instructional programs parameter and equity parameters cover quite a large swath of work as well. And so I hear your points, but I think that is, that's something we can process. And certainly your point as well, if we hadn't had the community support for our tech levy, just over 3 years ago, I guess, just over 3 years ago, we wouldn't have been in the case to roll so quickly. And I believe the work of that, allowed the pre-work, thanks to the tech levy support, also allowed our IT group to pivot to things like offering helplines to parents, you know, and partnering with our family liaisons to make sure all members of our community had quick access to technology and working on translation and stuff when needed. It's I have to say though, I'm still kind of caught on that second item, and I guess I hate the word unprecedented. It's been a crazy year, but with bringing Mike Bailey on board and the GFOA work, and there's been some effort and capacity to work on program management. And so I guess that's just kind of where I'm a bit stuck.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. We're now looking at our action item on this review for the policy, the parameter. Three choices again. As usual, we can find superintendent in compliance, making adequate progress towards compliance, or not in compliance. So is there a motion?
I would like to move that we find Superintendent Reed in compliance with parameter 10.
Director McGurty, is there a second?
I'll
Second motion.
All right.
Either one of us.
Thank you, Director Kogan, Director Hayes. Okay, it's been motioned and seconded that we find the superintendent in compliance with P10 or technology parameter. Any further discussion?
I guess President Swain, I think to go back to Director Cast, I'd be helpful to maybe get a clear direction on the being stuck part, right? Like, so it would be helpful for me, and as I pivot to work with staff, to better understand that.
I guess, my thought is just, this point came up last time we reviewed this parameter as well and did this monitoring report. And so, and I suppose you could, obviously this work has been critical and there's been a lot of tireless effort. You could also, make the argument that with so much work being done and such a financial investment, that program evaluation it's the urgency kind of parallels with it. So that, especially because again, with the timing of the new tech levy, it's very important that aspects are tracked in terms of the investment in time, investment in, taxpayer resources and things like that. And so it's, and again, since it's come up before too, that's, and so in terms of, I don't know, obviously there's been paths and systems to start working on program evaluation. So I suppose the word stuck that I used was not quite, maybe it's the focus is still there just because it's just in the future tense again for another monitoring report.
Okay, so maybe more of what I'm hearing is maybe more of a financial program evaluation in addition to sort of a software and hardware look, or?
Well, let me pull up the language of the parameter here so I can be a little bit more helpful. So a comprehensive program evaluation system of the instructional technology plan and outcomes. And so the research that's been shown as evidence that work has been done in terms of starting to identify a way to do program evaluation of the instructional plan. That's obviously progress compared to a year ago.
Agreed.
But it's just, right. It's not complete. And, the idea of why this line was put into the parameter to begin with was that it was a really large investment. And so that's why, and when you are working really quickly, again, it can be difficult to set aside time. But in other not just in the IT area of the district, in other areas of the district, we've started working on infrastructure to do program evaluation in general, which is, I guess, another reason to want to see some additional progress on that part of the parameter.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay.
And I'll just kind of add some of my thoughts to that. Certainly the work on the digital divide, and we do have some good information in this report. The digital divide will not go away as we return to in-person learning, and that will continue to be a barrier for students' access to being able to do homework and so forth. The way I heard this explained is we want to make sure technology is not just replacing paper and pencil, that it's enhancing instruction. And so looking at and getting data on how is it improving instruction and impacting students' outcomes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I believe it has been, we received a motion by Director Kogan to find Superintendent Reed in compliance. And it was seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Okay, the motion carries 4 yeses and 1 no. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to information items. Dr. Reed, beginning with Capital Projects Fund Allocation Report for January 2021.
Thanks, President Swain. And Siobhan, if you could bring that up, please. The Capital Projects Fund Allocation Report continues to trend as we would expect. There are no unforeseen anomalies, and it continues to trend in a manner that we would expect it to trend.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions?
I just have a quick one, Superintendent Reed. So let me pull it up. So on page 2, so under the 200 and the 2018 bond and levy, and I know purchase orders can continue to come in, and this is kind of a tag on because we're going to be looking at the project reports for the different buildings in just in a second on another agenda item, but the Skyview / Canyon Creek edition, we don't have an update on that because it was completed a while ago, but there's still quite a balance in the budget. So I just wanted to see if staff maybe can provide a report in terms of, 3.3 million. I'm not complaining it's under budget. I just want to see if it do we still have outstanding purchase orders, just kind of wondering the status of that building since we don't have an additional detailed report coming up here in a sec.
Yeah, thanks, Director Cast. And I know that I don't believe we've completely closed out that building, and normally we leave the line item in until that does happen, and then that money might otherwise move into capital fund general. So I will do a check and have staff provide a report for this Friday's brief.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Dr. Reed. Next item on information items, capital project status report.
Thank you, President Swain. And Siobhan, if you could bring up the capital project status report, please. The status report essentially for this month is, I think, kind of exciting. I know that for those of us, I was just at the North Shore Concert Hall site, and that is really progressing. It's on the Inglemoor High School site. And I'm not sure where we are here real quick. So this is the quarterly project for Ruby Bridges. So if we can just stay on this for a minute, Siobhan, please, and then we'll move to the other projects. But this is, in fact, I was in Ruby Bridges as well this last week on Friday. I will say this cafeteria open commons area with the large colorful circles is really quite an exciting and just kind of a fun and light space. Also having a chance to be out on the new playground and see all of the accommodations made for a fully inclusive playground at Ruby Bridges is really remarkable. Had a few moments to be in the office and in the gym, and just really impressed with the safety equipment our support services team has put into place as we prepare for our young students to return to campus. As far as this particular report, the spending to date, again, is well below our original budget, and similar to what you pointed out with Skyview and Canyon Creek, we're working well within our budget parameters to complete this project. And of course, we are ready for students to move in at this time. So are there any remaining questions about Ruby Bridges? Then we'll move to one of the other facilities. I think you do see that there are about 20 punch list items. I know I've signed a couple recent purchase orders as they relate to Ruby Bridges.
Oh, looks good. Are we really going to be, is that accurate to date at 20 million in our budget?
It's accurate as of the end of January 2021. I don't think we'll be quite that under budget, but remember that part of the plan for Ruby Bridges Elementary also included site work that might be site-wide. However, again, we have a fabulous finance and capital department, and they work really hard. That's part of the process we use, the GCCM process in North Shore, and we're able to get out early and contract early, and our projects come in at or below cost. So we're very excited about that and proud of that work and those teams. Siobhan, if you could bring up the next project, which would either be Innovation Lab High School or the North Shore Concert Hall. So here we all, thank you, Siobhan, if you could just scroll down so we could take a look-see at what's below.
Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Reed, but before we leave that topic, just because certainly I think as a taxpayer, the concern is, wait a minute, you didn't need all of my money. We write bonds that include perhaps more than what we may have funds. So it's not that that $20 million is going to sit, that there are other things that are in the bond that we will be using that money for. Is that correct?
That's correct. We actually generally have a much larger maintenance list, roofs and HVAC systems and so forth, than we have money in the bond. So, and I think you'll have an opportunity to really see that even again, right, with our study session following this meeting, and in terms of the age of our buildings and the required maintenance.
And it takes several months for the final purchase orders to make their way through, correct? Like that, I would be very surprised if the majority of that $20 million is still there in 6-8 months.
Well, I would agree, Director Cast, and I think that often the punch lists we get, depending on the vendor, the contractor, or the subcontractor, we may get the bills that trickle in here near the end. But yeah.
I appreciate that clarification.
Great. So currently the North Shore Concert Hall, the steel part of the structure has been completed. The frontage work's continuing. The stormwater connections are beginning, and those are ginormous stormwater pipes. If you haven't had a chance to walk by, like, I think it's, you know, you could actually do quite a, I mean, you can see kind of the person in there. It's phenomenal. The gas line connections to existing buildings took place in February, and roofing also is beginning as our weather permits. So this project is exciting. And we're thrilled about all the work happening there. And then Innovation Lab High School, please.
I'm sorry, one more question before we move on from the concert hall. Part of the project scope was also traffic mitigation, and I know it's hard to believe, but we will be back in person and traffic will be back. So can maybe you just walk us through a little bit of that work?
Sure. So you can see in the picture, the diagram there, kind of what it was feathered out to be, with parking moving at a slant versus the direct inset parking currently that exists at Inglemore. And I'll be honest, I know that we've had several parking / traffic scenarios, and I know we had one, and then we changed it to which actually was more efficient and then cost less money as well. So we were excited about that. And I can't, off the top of my head, diagram it for you tonight, but I certainly can get staff to do the circulating diagram that they settled on. But I don't want to sort of like wing it on this one tonight, because there were a couple different options, and I know they selected one, and I know it seemed like a great idea at the time, but I don't recall how it went.
Great.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. I thought you were going to talk about the classrooms, because we also have teaching and learning space. It's not simply a performance hall. It's also going to include significant classroom support as well. Oh, Dre is saying the big location is the change of the buses. So I'm guessing maybe those yellow lines are going to be where the buses will park in the future rather than on the other side of the campus. So maybe, I think I'm remembering this now. So the parking that goes sort of up the hill and around will just be driving, but no buses, and the buses go to this other parking lot, is what I think I now recall, because initially that wasn't the case. We were still keeping kind of everybody in the same 2 lanes. So it appears we were going to move buses. Actually, Dre said she'd be happy to write it up for you Friday. So I think that's probably best. If we're ready to go to Innovation Lab High School, yes? Okay.
We are, yes.
Right. Thanks, Yvonne. So if we could there we go. This building, as you recall, this is our CP4 business office building in the business park, which we have retrofitted and allowed just a very different use of space than we've toured on. But again, we have now finished the south end door installation, the flag poles in, elevator access cards, testing, adjusting, and balancing. We've replaced sliding panels and coordinated e-prep as well. And the project closeout is going to be was initiated in February, but we're not quite done. But remember, this is phase 1 of the remodel, and then there will be a subsequent phase 2. But there's been a lot of work. One, I suppose, silver lining of this is they've been able to be in the school getting all of this done at this point. So Innovation Lab High School continues to be on time, on schedule, and on budget. And we're excited about that project as well. Siobhan, thank you. I think that was the report.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Move on to project acceptance.
Item number 3, Siobhan, please. So thank you, President Swain. This is our propane auto gas where we have retrofitted or added propane storage from Blue Star Gas Associates for our new propane buses that we've purchased. So this is our form that we initiated which is program initiation and closeout. And this identifies that we did intend and have now completed accommodation for 6 propane buses and the auto gas fueling system, which was installed prior to 2019. So Song Young was the planner, did a fabulous job on that, and we're asking for you, or it's actually, this is an informational item at this point, but just kind of excited to have the 1,000 gallon above ground propane tank and fuel dispensing completed. So this is a nice transition and another step towards our green footprint goal that I know the board has a high interest in.
Thank you, Dr. Reed.
I will also share that Dree has just said that the parking and transportation piece at Inglemoor, how they reconfigured it, allows more cars to be on campus as well. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but that circulation will allow us to do that. So thanks, Dree.
Dr. Reed. Last information item, district budget status report for January 21.
Yeah, thank you, President Swain. So Siobhan, if you could bring up the budget status report, please. Again, if we could go down to the general capital transportation ASB. Nope, I think we, if we can go back up just a scooch. There we go. All right, general fund. So when you think about the general fund, essentially we are still continuing to trend in a manner that we might have anticipated. Our ending fund balance is still trending higher than the same period last year. And year-to-date revenues and expenditures were lower than the same period last year as compared to budget. However, again, this is through January, and we know that our transportation holdback became a reality in February, and we'll talk about that when we talk about our February report. So it'll be very important, and I know all of you are aware of that, the transportation support. But the budgets are trending as we would expect. And the transportation vehicle fund, again, we're ordering more buses for the coming year. The plan is to order 10 new buses, in part because we don't know yet for sure how many students in the fall will be able to transport on buses, depending on the fall guidelines. What we know now is we can transport up to 26 on a larger bus and up to 6 on a smaller bus, currently under the guidelines, health and safety guidelines. Either way, we need more buses, so we have placed an order for 10, and those will be on the amortization table that traditionally transportation purchases are made on. So any questions about the budget status report for January?
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Appreciate it. We'll move on to our policy review of parameter P10 quickly. I think we all have some ideas that we can bring up at the next study session on technology, but if we could bring that up and take a quick peek at it. Dr. Reed, you probably don't have anything to say. The board, I want to take any quick comments for our future discussion.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I want us to focus on getting kids back into school right now, and that this would be a summer or fall conversation around this parameter, if the rest of the board is interested.
Yeah, point well taken, I think. You also have any thoughts on this tonight? Okay, hearing none. We will move on. All right, we're moving into our discussion area. Dr. Reed, if you have an update on North Shore Innovates, North Shore Learns, and our current status.
You know, since last Friday, we sent out, or since the last time we met, we did send out communication that indicates that we have a timeline for returning our earliest learners, our students in special programs, and K through 5 students. And we also are working on for our middle and high school students, on-site hub programs. And I think that our website has continued to be updated. And we do have as well our senior committee They did not meet last Wednesday, but they did meet today with a group that's looking at supporting some type of outdoor in-person graduation ceremony. So there's a lot of work going on with our senior group planning, and we're really trying to button up our spring details and planning at this time so that we can pivot in April after spring break to begin work on our fall reopening plans. I think the other thing I would just say, and we've said it a couple times, but the communication about details, what time, whether students are in group A or group B and so forth, that communication will be coming directly from schools to families, because we know that schools, the school principals and teachers, staff will want to be having those conversations directly with staff and parents. So you'll see more communication coming from schools to families as those details get worked out, in particularly at the elementary level right now.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions?
I just have two questions. So, Dr. Reed, so about senior activities, we are almost mid-March. So I don't know what the best path forward is in terms of, we talked about it a couple months ago, and it is a topic that I think we need more clarity on in terms of, I know it's been, there's been some work kind of at a central district location as well as individual schools, but I know when we've talked about it before, I guess just the way, I'm a bit surprised there aren't just more specifics yet. So if there's any, I don't know if you have that information now. I know it's our protocol for board members to email when they have a specific data request, which I did not do here, but is there any other information you can get about you could give us tonight about those seniors activities?
Well, what I do know is that they met with the high school principals, and Heather Miller met with, and I think somebody from communications met with a group this afternoon to talk about online streaming of an in-person high school graduation possibility. And that I believe they've set up a committee looking at Popkini as a site to do some type of in-person outdoor graduation ceremony. So that piece around graduation continues to be planned. I think each school in the senior activity committee, again, that's headed up by Heather Miller, each school has planned some type of a senior activity, I think, between now and spring break. The idea of having some kind of a senior activity before spring break, which is prior to the conversation around hubs, is one that Cabinet gave Heather Miller the green light on. Basically just work with the regional assistant superintendents with the general health parameters. It's not something we want. Every idea or activity does not need to go to Cabinet, because that would just slow everything down. So we've been really clear that high school principals should work with their regional assistant superintendent within the guidelines that all other programs work within. And I think that each high school has something planned. I don't know the details of what those plans are, because I'm not directly involved in those meetings, but I can get you that information. And as we work forward on hubs, again, we aren't necessarily requiring, Heather's texting in. It's called Life and Light, and they did our events last year, and that's who the team met with. Thanks, Heather. And the meeting about Popkini is next week with the team. So there's a lot of graduation planning going on, and then those other sort of more social activities are being planned with the high school principal and their regional assistant superintendent with the green light from Cabinet, as long as it just runs through a health check and PPE check protocol, which I think our folks are getting very used to with all the materials pickup events they've hosted, in the last year or so. More to come. And again, most of that communication is coming directly from the school to families. It wouldn't necessarily come from the district. The reason we brought all the high school principals together under the wise leadership of Heather Miller and the other regional assistants is we didn't want lots of things to happen at one high school and maybe not so many at another. We wanted to keep some level of parity among all the high schools. So they're working together and problem solving and brainstorming, and I'll make sure you get a list of what they're thinking about doing.
Okay. Thank you. And I have just one more question. So with the testing going on with high school athletics and all, do we have a data dashboard for COVID testing and cases? Other districts have put together one by building. And so I would think, we're already collecting data now. And then I know there's been questions with our collaborative group with the East King County school districts about how we might help get that information. I don't know if the testing company would be responsible for getting that information to the Department of Health so they could put any positive cases in their own dashboard, or how that would work with ours. But I was just wondering if there's been work on a data dashboard.
We have an internal facing dashboard and have had one for over a year now. It's not externally facing because it has the name and the quarantine timeline and so forth. But we certainly could look at doing something externally facing without, personally identifiable information.
Just in aggregate. Yeah, I think that the information is really helpful to multiple parties. Yeah.
Yeah, with our student athletes, I know we've had at least 3 positive batches and several, obviously COVID positive student athletes that presented asymptomatically because they went to practice and felt fine, but then perhaps weren't, obviously, if they tested positive. And I think several symptomatic cases as well, which I think is in keeping with what, at least from a symptomatic standpoint, other schools have had to cancel events. I know there were multiple games canceled in Pierce County last week as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I'd look forward to an update on a dashboard like that. An aggregate, obviously no personal information necessary.
You bet.
Thank you.
So I have one. There was an article in the Seattle Times yesterday, very interesting article, and the information in there is matching what I am hearing from our families. It was about students of color and why they are more reluctant to come back to in-person learning. The kind of the main 3 reasons, one definitely was a fear of COVID. The other 2 big ones, one was that bullying has been reduced for students of colors in remote learning, and they are not thrilled about coming back to experience that. And the other is that the microaggressions from staff, there are family members in the room for those students that can catch that, provide a teachable moment for the staff member, and help walk the student through that moment. I know that we are doing some really good work and providing information about our safety protocols to our families that have those concerns in different languages, and making sure they understand what we're doing to keep their students safe. What I'm asking is, can we monitor our in-person enrollment, the students that are coming back for in-person, making sure that demographics match our overall enrollment demographics, and that if they're not, while we don't have a whole lot of control of COVID spread outside of the schools, we do have control over work around bullying and staff professional development, and be reaching out to our students that are choosing not to come back for some of those reasons and finding out what we can do to help.
Sure. I think we've seen a lot of articles on the topics of why some students or families are wanting to be back sooner than others. And I think it's really an important conversation. I know I've personally spoken to a number of families about that topic. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Others? Dr. Kogan, Dr. McGurdy, you have anything? I had a couple of items, Dr. Reed. I guess one is just a comment on, as we look at these hubs, I know each building has to work with their teachers and the classes because each building has different types of classes, et cetera. But maybe it would be interesting if teachers could somehow figure out a shuffle with asynchronous time or something. I know it's complicated, but some of these hubs, it would be nice if they were addressing some lab work for particular classes. And then maybe for WANIC courses and CTE courses that are more hands-on, if somehow we can incorporate a wee bit of in-person time for those students that, you know, either in their advanced chemistry or auto repair or cooking and some of those other hands-on courses, especially with WANIC, with some of those students have goals of obviously moving into the workforce, potentially in apprenticeship programs, et cetera, right after graduation. I think those are, those obviously are important, but if there's a way we can get creative with those, we'd really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. I made a note of that.
Thank you. And then lastly, I think just from our public comments and other emails that we've gotten, a lot of trepidation about the fall. And I know Director Cass and I are on that call with our Eastside fellows, and fall is on the minds of everyone because of the course of the guidelines, and is the 6-foot rule still in effect in the fall, which impacts everything we're looking at now. But could you take a little bit of time tonight just to talk to us and the public about our intentions for the fall, or hopes for the fall at least, and shed a little color on it?
Sure, President Swain. I think one of the things I have to be really thoughtful about, and I had a conversation with a family earlier today, is I have to stay in generalities because we work with our labor partners as we plan all new models. So I don't know based on what the new guidance will be for fall, what a model is going to look like yet, because we won't really begin to dig into that until mid-April. What I can say is we clearly have a strong desire to get students back to campus in the fall. We want to make sure we do it safely, but we absolutely want as many students as possible back to campus in the fall. And we believe strongly that that's our North Star. That's what we will collaboratively work with our labor partners to support. And when we get down to specifics, my hope is that we'll be able to announce those in June, what that looks like. So families and staff can just take a breath this summer and kind of rejuvenate to come back to a fall start that we all understand and can prepare for over the summer. So again, our goal would be to return students to campus in as safe a way as possible. There are some outlier data points that we don't yet have to complete planning for fall. And that 6-foot rule is one of the most significant, honestly. And I think we'll hear more about that later this spring, because you have to believe that vaccinations factor into some of that conversation, and some type of testing and tracing program will factor into it. But if that 6 feet is reduced, then more students could be in a classroom at once, right? So we're going to have to scenario plan. We'll have to plan if it's 6, if it's 3, if it's 4, because X number of students will fit in every room based on what that plan looks like. So with our goal of getting as many students back as possible in the fall, we'll still have to rely on some of that guidance when it comes.
From our previous conversations, it sounds like we are doing those contingency plans based on spacing, potential spacing, whether it be 6 or 3 or 3.2 or 2.
Well, we're going to work on that after we button up spring.
Yeah.
We have to finish our spring planning because it's the same people planning for fall that are finishing up spring. So we need to button up spring, and then I think after spring break, we'll be able to then really be able to pivot and be thinking about fall more earnestly. But there's still details to finalize for spring with not only our elementary hybrid, but also a really robust hub program for our middle and high school students. Those are important details still to work through as well.
All right, thank you, Dr. Reed.
Can I just ask a quick follow-up question on that, Dr. Reed? So, because you just mentioned June, so because OSPI is requiring a school board approved plan for September by June 1st, really, we're going to be having conversations before June 1st, correct? Right? Because we'll have to vote on it before it's submitted.
We will, although the June plan is really around what they're calling learning loss planning that they need by June 1st, which because they obviously want us to consider summer as part of that. And by June 1, they want to have a chance to review those plans. I'm not sure how much of a school reopening requirement is connected to the June 1st plan, but I know it's the learning loss and recovery pieces that have to be done by June 1.
Yeah, I had thought it was around reopening too. So I think especially like President Swain mentioned, with all the trepidation, and I know these are busy weeks, but I think if it goes too close to the end of the school year, that's going to be creating just more trepidation and stress and anxiety out there. Thank you.
And I'll just follow up, and because of the lack, when there isn't information, people will fill that in. And so I know that there's details, but the likelihood that it will be an all remote required scenario in the fall, I believe my understanding is that's pretty slim to none, that's going to be the case in the fall, that there will be kids on campus in some form, and
Yes.
more to come on that. But yes, okay, thank you.
Quick question too on that, Dr. Reed, if we had to wait till, well, if we have, we might get information prior to June that tells us what we can and can't do on spacing or projections, but how does the delay and being able to wrap our heads around what the health guidelines will be as far as budgeting for enrollment, staff hiring? I guess we're probably done with registration now, aren't we? I think we have we're almost there. We're in the process of it.
Yeah, I think we're in the process of it. Yeah, we're budgeting very conservatively and staffing very conservatively.
Thank you. Thoughts, questions? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll move on to board reports and communications. Is there any new business to discuss this evening? Okay, see none. Thank you. Board member reports. Director Cast is first on the list.
Thank you, President Swain. I'll start with on February 23rd, there was a meeting with Director Hayes and I with Representative Roger Goodman from the 45th LD to update him about all things North Shore and seek his support on funding stability and on social emotional supports going forward into the new year. On February 25th, attended the statewide WASDA COVID collaboration call. On March 1st, attended our second virtual conversations with the board. Thank you to all the community members who took time to attend. It was quite a large turnout, and we had to improvise our format, but it was great to have so many people join us. March 4th, another statewide WASDA COVID collaboration call. On March 5th, attended with President Swain the Eastside School District collaboration Friday morning meeting, as well as participated in a couple hour resolutions, a WASDA resolutions committee meeting, that statewide committee I'm on. And then just today, a planning meeting with WASDA for the virtual week on the Hill, attended that today, which is actually a quick segue. So I wanted to talk to the board really quick. So there are planned meetings with all but 2 of our legislators that WASDA has arranged. So the idea with how this works is that any school board member, as long as we don't trigger a quorum inadvertently by having 3 members from the same board attend, any school board member who's in the 45th legislative district, for instance, which would be us and Riverview, and I think Snoqualmie Valley and Lake Washington, there's meetings set up with the 3 representatives from the 45th LD, and we have an opportunity to attend. And there's a sign up list on WASDA. I just wanted to check in with the board since we have that OPMA concern. So Director Hayes was with me today, so she's all good for the 45th meetings. I wanted to check if there's any interest on who might be interested in the first LD meetings. Right, Director McGurty raised a hand. I don't know if Director Kogan, sometimes he's able to attend, and I have those dates handy if you need to know them right now.
Yes, please. What are the dates for the first LD?
So the dates for those. So on the first, so with Representative Dewar on the 15th of March at 3 p.m. with Representative Klobuchar the same day, the 15th at 2:30. Oh, they're all the same day. And then Senator Stanford is on the 15th at 4 p.m. So a block of time in the afternoon. These are only 15-minute meetings. And again, it would be with, and there's a coordination meeting with others in the first LD, which, Everett School District, for instance, so we can all collaborate since we only have those 15 minutes, make the most use of that time.
Director McGurty, do you want to pick the 2 times that work for you, and I'll pick the third one?
Sorry, yes. Yes, I can. I will have to consult my calendar.
So maybe Siobhan could help us coordinate that so we can see. So again, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock, and 4 o'clock on the 15th. And then I'll help get the RSVP information too, because WASDA is coordinating those meetings. And then President Swain usually like to drop in on the 46th LD. So we only have an RSVP from Representative Valdez so far. So and it's March 18th at 3 p.m.
Make it work.
Okay, great. And Shoreline School District representatives will definitely be there. We're not sure if Seattle will, but we can get you some notes about in terms of there are some categories of areas that WASDA has kind of pulled together, some commonalities. So we'll get you some notes and get that all ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cast. Appreciate all that hard work.
I could
Director
just follow
Kogan.
quickly.
Oh yeah, sorry, Director
Just
McGurty.
with Director Kogan, any of those times work for me. So whichever meeting works best for you, just let me know.
All right. Thank you very much, Director McGurty. Let's work it out with Siobhan on the times. Thank you. Thank you, President Swain. My report on the 1st of March, attended conversations with the board. I'd like to thank all the community members that attended and all the community members that submitted questions. Thank you.
Director Kogan. Director Hayes.
Yes, thank you. So it has been brought to my attention that in the last year, this work being done virtually, normally I'm in and out of buildings and attending events, and so being seen and that my virtual work is not seen by the public. So I do apologize. I haven't been sharing all of the things that I've been doing. So I will do that tonight. As Director Cass talked about on the 23rd, I attended a meeting with Representative Goodman to discuss our situation. I also am a member of multiple PTAs, so attended an elementary PTA meeting that night. The next day on the 24th, I am working with our North Shore PTAs and the foundation to put together a career day for all of our middle schools that will, just FYI, be held on March 17th. So was in a planning meeting for that on the 25th. I also volunteer in one of our high school classrooms. I do that every week, meeting with students. I am working with them, they're seniors, to help them make sure they're ready for their next steps, but it's also an opportunity for me to see what our high school classrooms look like and hear from our students. I also am on a statewide committee that does work around digital equity work. So I attended that meeting on the 25th, and then was one of multiple statewide legislative committee meetings that I've had over the last 2 weeks, happened on the 25th. Then on March 1st, I get, like others have mentioned, attended the conversations with the board. On the third, more career day planning meeting. On the 4th, attended the audit entrance conference, as well as more of those meetings, and some meeting with parents. Today I had 2 regional meetings where I met with board members from around King County. The first one was North King County, the second was South King County. There will be another one with Snohomish County later in the week. And then I have also had multiple phone calls and walks with board members from districts around our region.
Thank you, Director Hayes. Been busy. Director McGurty.
Yes, thank you, President Swain. I have in the last 2 weeks attended the Thursday WASDA networking calls, of course, as well as the conversations with the board last Monday, as has been mentioned. Also, as part of my function as a Snohomish County liaison, if you will, I've been attending and monitoring the Snohomish County Council and Commission meetings the last couple of weeks. Just wanted to brief update the Planning Commission meeting that I attended. I attended in part because they were presenting their comprehensive and communication plan for future growth in Snohomish County. I was able to offer my thanks for the work that they have intended, but also to remind them about considering the needs of the schools and the districts as they plan forward for population growth in the county. But more importantly, I was really pleased that 2 members of the commission actually also spoke up. One of them beat me to the punch to point out and ask that they ensure that our schools are considered and the needs of the schools provided for as the ongoing planning for population growth. There were also some planning and development meetings and a legislative meeting. I have been monitoring a change in school construction code that is going through the committee right now, as well as the Puget Sound Transit Accountability Act, I believe, a fund distribution that they are making final decisions on relative amounts that will come to our district. So that's me.
Thank you, Director McGurty. I'll keep mine short, but Director Cass and I do our Friday meetings with the Eastside members, other school board members, and collaboration and sharing of information and talking directly with King County Public Health and other leaders around the region. And of course, been on the WASDA call, weekly WASDA calls, and conversations with the board. I think that's it for now. Yes, that's my report. I'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. It's been a long evening. Before we adjourn, are you guys good with, I think we need a 10-minute break before we start the study session. Is that okay? Might need a personal time and some food maybe and something to drink. So why don't we meet up here again at, I guess, 6:55. Roughly right around there. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience for submitting your comments again. And I will call this meeting adjourned.